usually when something breaks down, your employee's not doing it wrong on purpose. They're doing it wrong. And it's not right or wrong. It's just wrong to you because you didn't tell them something, you forgot something, you didn't provide them something. So they're kind of winging it because they're thinking, well, Michelle showed this to me once and I should have remembered. And if I ask her, she's probably going to think I'm stupid. So I'm just going to figure it out and we're going to go. And the worst part is the customer's probably not going to complain. They're just probably not going to come back eventually. And you see it in restaurants all the time. If you go to a restaurant and you don't really love it, you're not going to like go on Yelp or you're not going to go on Google and say it sucked. You're just not going to go back. And then the business owner's like, well, nobody's complaining. Why isn't anybody coming back? I don't get it. Because you really have to do a lot to piss somebody off and make them complain. It's just when there's that inconsistent delivery of service, it usually comes back to those systems and processes. So, going back to it, what people miss is not necessarily the process. It's just they don't go in depth enough in the process because they assume, well, everybody knows that and nobody knows it, assume nobody knows it, and assume that you can hire somebody that knows nothing about kids, knows nothing about coffee, knows nothing about customers, and they just need to be told exactly what to do. So then they can focus more energy on the customer.
Yep. A couple of things that came to mind when you were going through that. So first is I saw something that you posted the other day on Facebook, and a lot of times between owner and staff, it can even just be a really simple generational breakdown in that what you posted was, you could say end of day. And I'm from the corporate world. I left the corporate world to open my Play Cafe. So to me, end of day is 5 p.m. But to a lot of the college and high school aged, I never said by 5 p.m. I said, can you submit this payroll by end of day? And they hear, midnight. And that's how they grew up. That's how their college operates. But that's not how I view it in my mind. So because I didn't specify, our payroll was late and I had to, physically go to our accountant and drop this off because it was late. And I was so frustrated. But when I saw your Facebook post, I was like, wow, that was a breakdown of my communication. So that was definitely accurate. And thank you for bringing that up. And then the second point that I had to bring up, and this is one of the hardest things I think about being a Play Cafe owner, is we actually get way too much feedback. So what I mean by that is, sometimes I like to, like bird box. I don't want to hear it because what we used to do, and now like literally as soon as this interview is over, I'm going to go re-enable it. But what we used to do, so when somebody walks in the door, we require them to sign a waiver. We collect their name, their email address. They can, of course, opt out to email marketing. But if they don't opt out, we send them a survey after every single visit. And it's just quick 3 questions. It takes less than 10 seconds, but there's a space for notes. And we did this for about 6 months. So every single day I would get about 35 to 40 surveys back. And it was a lot of people who would have never complained otherwise started complaining about little things. Oh, I didn't like the toilet paper in your bathroom. I wish you used 2-ply instead of 1-ply. The coffee was a little bit cold. I noticed that a child had a runny nose. And I put the blindfold over my eyes. I was like, this is too much. I can't deal with all of this feedback. Even though it was so valuable, it was just too much. So, and people don't go out of their way to necessarily say nice things. They go out of their way to bring something to your attention, and it's not malicious, but I got very defensive. And I was like, oh, I'm so sorry that we didn't provide you with, extra cotton plush toilet paper. I just got, instead of taking that feedback and saying, okay, if we're getting this suggestion 10 times, maybe this would make a difference. Instead of doing that, I just kind of pushed it all aside and I actually took the survey off because I was just overwhelmed and it made me not want to move forward. It kind of paralyzed me. All of the feedback, I was like, oh my gosh, all this time I thought I was doing everything perfectly. Nobody was complaining. But really, there's all these tiny things that, I could be working on. And I just shut down and I was like, I can't deal with this. What I should have done, now looking at it is I probably should have delegated it to a manager or somebody who was a little less personally, maybe emotionally invested. Because I literally went to bed every single night when that survey was on, like wow, I'm such a failure. Our toilet paper is terrible. Our coffee is full, so instead of reacting by hiring someone and delegating that task out, I literally just shut it down and I turned the campaign off. And now I'm realizing that that's probably not the wisest choice. But so a lot of play cafes do the same thing. They have, we have a very unique opportunity in that we can follow up with people. Most restaurants and things like that, yeah, they collect email addresses, but they don't collect every single email address of every single person. And honestly, very rarely does somebody opt out of receiving emails from us. So we have a very unique opportunity to really continue that customer experience all the way through when they get home and, continue communicating with them after. So I'm glad you brought that up. And I need to go make some changes. But that's something that, I am very honest about in the course, is that parents are very willing and very ready to give feedback. And you have to be ready to take it. Even 3 years in, I am still too emotionally invested. I treat it as an extension of myself. So, a lot of time, because it's my passion project, right? So when I see somebody complaining, I take it very personally and I take it as, a personal attack against me. When, I talk about this in the course, is that it's very common among play cafe owners. It's a very passionate group. I know all small business owners are passionate, but a lot of us treat this as their children. And I now know that I need to delegate this out. I am not the right person. I'm not the right person to deal with complaints, because a lot of times they do get defensive and, just kind of shut down. So sorry, I didn't mean to go on a tangent, but
no, but I mean, it is so true that, it is your baby. Every small business is our baby, especially when we start it. But understanding that they're not attacking you and having the ability to understand that negative feedback is the best way to improve your business.
Right.
Because
you can't ignore it. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, you can't ignore it, but you can ignore it if it's just like a one-off and you
right.
kind of know this person. But if there's a constant theme of like, hey, your toilet paper sucks, then all of a sudden then you go get better toilet paper. And it's like, right. Wow, like they're listening to me. It feels like this is like my family. I'm going to refer more people there. And when you take the time to respond to those people, not everybody, but a lot of people just appreciate it. They're like, wow, you actually care about your cafe and you're not here just to make money and you really are passionate. And then they become like your number one advocate. You can't keep everybody happy, but right. Understanding that they're not attacking you. And if you see a common theme and you continue to make these changes, you're going to set yourself apart from the competition because, just like you said, most people take it so personally and defensive. And then that makes it worse because it's like,
yeah, I respond.
I don't want to go back to Michelle's cafe. Like she got really mad when I told her toilet paper sucked.
Yep. And even though I know that it's not a personal attack, I've told myself that 100 times, but I still can't help it. So, my first reaction was again to just not solicit feedback. But now, I'm finally learning that, okay, it's not that I just shouldn't get feedback. It's that, turn the survey back on, but I need to have somebody else deal with it. Because even though I know, it's still really hard for me. And I'm, a very, when I take it to heart, I can't let go of it. It bothers me. It completely drains my energy, even if it's something as small as that. So, it's something that I had to admit as a business owner that, even though I know something to be true, I just can't get over that hurdle. So I had to choose another way. I have to delegate that task out to somebody else. So kind of staying along this about, businesses that have been in operation for a while. I know we talked a lot about startups and when people are getting started, but what are some common issues you see in businesses, like mine, that are like a lot of your clients, I bet, that have been operating for a while?
Yeah. So I think, one is they get complacent, especially when they start seeing some success and really understanding. I mean, momentum is so powerful in business. You're either growing or you're declining. Like you can't just stay level. So I think really just becoming complacent and really using that feedback as an example. It's like, whatever, we're fine. We don't need this. And if you have that thing turned off forever, you might be losing so much business that you don't really know because you might just be getting new people in the door, but they're not coming back. So it's like, well, revenue's fine. We're not really down, but what could we be doing if we're actually listening to our people? So, I would say that's probably one thing. And then obviously if the business owner is just too far into the business, is really just burnout. That's really where I see people is they're overwhelmed. They don't know what to do. Their passion and their fire that they had when they started, it was gone. It's like, I hate this Play Cafe. I never want to go in there because my employees suck. The people are complaining, whatever it is. Like, that's usually where they probably saw the problems coming, but they kind of ignored it. They had the blinders on, like, let's just keep powering through. And then it's just too late. It's like, now what do we do? So a lot of people that I talk to, they're kind of beyond that point. It's like, I can't really even help them because they're already working 18 hours a day and their mindset is so far gone. It's like, I want to just sell my equipment or sell my furniture and call it a day. So, really getting back to why you started that business is so important, and understanding that the only way to probably achieve that why is to give up control to other people and delegate with confidence and build that all-star team and really have a business that can run without you. So a lot of business owners think, I'm the only one that can do this and I want to be in total control. But if you're responsible for everything, that is the least point of control, because if something happens to you or your family, you're not in control at all. And then all of a sudden the business isn't making money because you're not there. So when your business needs you to be there, people just a lot of times don't make that transition. It's like, okay, well, I'll run the front desk for a while, but then eventually I'll delegate it. But then you never do, because then you get busy or you have another kid or you got to put out this fire and you never get there. So really having that vision of, why did I start this business? What does this business look like when it's all said and done, when it doesn't need me? Mm-hmm. And then being willing to put those systems and processes in place and delegate those things, whether it's taking feedback, calling customers, setting up birthday parties. If you're running a lot of birthday parties on the weekends and you're the one doing a lot of the work, well, that kind of sucks, because you'd rather be spending those weekends with your family. So understanding that somebody else could be doing the birthday parties as long as you train them properly. So that's where I see usually people, they're just overwhelmed. They don't know what to do. And it usually starts way back because their daily actions aren't mapping to where they really want to go.
Got it. I'll never forget. You probably don't even remember this conversation. It was probably 2 years ago when we first met. But one of the first things that you ever asked me was, how long could your business run without you? 5 minutes, 5 days, 5 months. And I was like, I don't even think it could go 5 minutes, because we had just opened. I was still there every single day. And, through a lot of, you've been super generous speaking with you, doing some, other trainings and work. We're finally at a place where, it does run fairly well without me. And, we're not spending any more money, but I'll never forget that conversation because, I remember you saying to me, well, I got some bad news. That is not a business. So thank you for that tough love, but it's so true. And sometimes we need to hear it, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, that's really what it came down to me with my first business. We were running after school programs for elementary kids and summer camps and all these events, but I had people kind of delivering a lot of those events and the coaching and all that, but I was still responsible for it on a day-to-day basis. And really what it hit me was, I need to keep growing this business, but I can't because I literally don't have any more time. And then I asked myself, what happens if I got hit by a bus? And if I got hit by a bus, that business wouldn't last more than a week. And then I'd have a lot of upset employees, a lot of upset customers, and my wife would not be happy either, because all this stuff was in my head and I could do it in my sleep, but nobody else could do it. So it is unfortunately tough love, but nobody started a business to be tied to it 24/7. We started our business so we could have more freedom. We could have that money coming in while we're not physically working, in the business. So just asking yourself that and understanding that if you delegate something and that person totally crashes and burns, it's not the end of the world. Figure out why they crashed and burned, and then put a process in place so it doesn't happen again.
Absolutely. And something that I see a lot with Play Cafe owners that are struggling and that are not reaching their revenue goals, they're not, making as much as they had hoped. A lot of times the first thing I'll ask them is, well, how much time on your calendar is, dead time? So for example, you pay rent whether or not you have a class in the evening. So a lot of them will say, oh, well, we're open from 9 to 1 and then we're closed on Sundays because that's our family day. And, when you look at their calendar, they're really only generating revenue for like 4 hours out of a 24-hour day, just because that's all they can physically do. And, when I look at our calendar, even though we're only open from, 9 to 4, we have a class every single night. We are rocking from, 8:30 a.m. to, 8 o'clock p.m. Saturday and Sunday. And a lot of people, are like, oh my gosh, how do you do it? Like there's always cars. Something that people say to me, even other local business owners, they're like, there are always cars in your parking lot. Like, how are you doing this with a family and all this stuff? And I'm like, well, I had to. Like, I got to a point where I was doing the same thing. I would take, I think Monday and Wednesday, I'd be like, well, we're going to close at 1 because I just want the afternoon off. And a lot of people in the program, I've, had to give them some tough love, and they wanted to be closed on Sundays. And I'm like, listen, we generate 30% of our weekly revenue on Sundays. Like, you don't have to be there. That can still be your family day. But you don't have to close your business. So do you see anything like that with clients, or do you have anything to add there?
Yeah, I mean, you're 100% right. There's actually a local ice cream shop here where we live, and it's a family run thing. And like, you'll go there sometimes and like, oh, we're closed. We want to take a family day or whatever. It's like, to me, I don't even want to go back there because I don't want to pull in and have them be closed again when I could just go somewhere else. So trusting the process that if you you're not running a complex business if you document the processes. It's not like this is how you do brain surgery. Like, if you can do it, so can somebody else, if they have a roadmap to follow. Because like you said, I mean, putting yourself in your ideal customer's shoes, they might be working Monday through Friday, but they want to get out, or they want to have a birthday party at your place, or they want to go to a class in the evening. Just because you don't want to be there doesn't mean you shouldn't be open. If you're only open for 4 hours a day, Monday through Friday, you're only open 20 hours out of 168. You got to generate a lot of revenue to make that rent work. So that's really, I see it all the time, and that's really where I was. It's like, I want to keep generating revenue, but I physically can't, or I don't want to, so I need somebody else to be able to generate revenue for me.